When most people think of a project manager, they think of someone with really strong organisational skills, someone who can put together a plan, who can track tasks well, who can hold people accountable to do the work they're meant to do at the time they're meant to do it. And as a starting point as a project manager, those are essential skills to have. However, it misses a core component of what it really means to be a highly effective project manager. Now, my belief is actually that is one role of a project manager, but to be a highly effective project manager, you need to perform not just one role, but three. And in this video, I'm going to explain what those three roles are and how to perform them well. Welcome to The Pragmatic Professional. I'm Ian, and for the last 20 years, I've been delivering organisational and technology change within the financial services sector. And my recent book, The Project Management Mindset, is aimed at teaching new project managers or experienced project managers the skills and behaviours that they need to perform as highly effective project managers that project management methodologies can't teach. And in this series of videos, I walk through each of the chapters of my book one by one to try and summarise some of the key points. And in this, the fifth of the series, I focus on the second principal chapter of my book, The Three Roles of a Project Manager. And the key hypothesis of that chapter is that while most people think that project management is one job, it's one role, I believe it's actually three. And understanding those three roles and knowing when to play those three roles is a key point to being a highly effective project manager. And if you like these videos and would like to see more, please give a like to the video, leave any comments in the section below. And if you'd like to see and be notified of the upcoming videos, please hit the subscribe button and hit the bell notification icon, and you'll be notified when I release these. I'll be releasing them through 2025, probably take me until up about the end of the year. I'm aiming to release one every about 3 weeks to a month at the moment. So this is chapter 5 of about 13 that I need to run through. So let's jump straight into what I believe are the three roles of a highly effective project manager. And an important thing to note at first is while these roles align quite closely to the individual stages of a project, the initiation, the planning, the execution and the closure stages, they don't necessarily align exactly. So for example, one role may need to be applied at various stages throughout a project and may need to be applied at different times. So knowing when to play these roles and when they apply is critical. So let's start with the first role, what I label the consultant. And the irony of this role is I think it's the least understood and the least in demand and the least utilised of the three roles of a project manager. And the problem I have with that is I think this is where a real highly effective project manager, an experienced project manager, adds the most value, and in particular, the most value for the amount of effort required. But it's also one of the most difficult to master, and that's particularly because it's not just skills and behaviours that are required for this role, although they are very important. It also requires a lot of experience, a lot of industry knowledge, a lot of outside knowledge from the organisation you might be working for, and that can only really be acquired over time. And the purpose of the consultant is mainly in the initiation stage of a project. The consultant works with a client, works with a customer, works with a sponsor, whatever you want to label it, works with the person who wants the project done to really extract and work with them to understand what they want done. Because a lot of the time, customers don't know exactly what they want. They know where they want to get to, but they maybe aren't able to articulate it well enough. And through reasoned questioning, the consultant extracts that information and documents it and starts to build a story and a plan and a strategy around that, and challenges the customer on whether that project is actually needed, really starts to scrutinise it to try and fend off some of the future challenge. And ultimately, a consultant takes that idea, extrapolates it and builds a narrative around it, builds a story that can be bought into, defines the requirements, defines a high-level plan, a high-level strategy of how we can achieve that and what it would take to achieve that. And ultimately builds that into an investable package that could go to an investment committee or anyone that needs to fund that and buy into that idea to release funds in order to go ahead to the next stage, which is the planning stage. And to perform that role well requires a very distinctive set of skills that are very different from what we described earlier around organisational and task management. This requires things like conceptual interpretation, so the ability to listen to someone who has an idea, someone who wants an outcome, and through reasoned questioning extract that and turn it into tangible, very easily readable, very easily digestible information that can be played back to multiple audiences. It requires commercial awareness, so a really good understanding of the current business model, the wider industry, the wider environment, and to be able to take that knowledge and experience and apply it to the current challenge and look for potential challenges that haven't been thought of and look for potential opportunities they may be and other options that we may seek. It requires really strong communication skills to build free-flowing communication between the levels required to build that story and build that narrative within the business, all the way from the investors of the project through to the customer and the project team that will ultimately help to deliver it. And a significantly understated skill is relationship building, so the ability to build and nurture relationships that you'll require and depend on maybe 1 or 2 years down the line as the project's running. And when I say that this is the least utilised and least understood of the 3 roles, I don't mean that as a criticism to project managers. I think it's also significantly misunderstood and misutilised by organisations. Many organisations think of a project manager as the planner, as the middle part, that organisational piece, and that they've already got an idea and they know what they want to do and just need someone to help execute it. And in my opinion, that's a significant mistake. A project manager adds value up front of the project. It's a lot easier as a project manager to steer and avoid some of the key potholes that a project can hit if you're involved from the front. But most organisations want someone to come on and take on an already existing idea that is ready to go. But hiring a project manager at the point that you're ready to execute a project significantly diminishes the project manager's ability to influence some of the key factors that may impact a project in its execution. And I think that's a significant mistake both for the project manager and the organisation. It also limits a project manager's ability to ever gain the experience in performing that role. And that's where we move on to the second role, the role that I call the planner, and the role that I think most people think of project managers as. And the planner's job really is to take that investable idea that the consultant has created, that packaged investment, and turn that into a tangible plan and resource model and finance model, and detail out all the steps of how we're going to achieve what we're going to achieve in detail along with SMEs. So the planner is really responsible for taking that outcome and defining exactly what we're going to do to get to that outcome. So specifically, what are we going to deliver tangibly to execute that? On top of that, they're going to detail when are we going to execute those. So what does the scheduling look like? When are we going to deliver what we're going to deliver? So that's the plan. And also who's going to deliver that and when. So that's your resource model. And alongside that, what financial resources is going to be required. So what's the cost? What's the financial model of the project? Alongside that, we start to look at the threats and opportunities to the project. So what risks are there that could derail our project? What opportunities are there that we could potentially exploit? And to start making a plan around those that we can build into the overall project plan as well. And this requires quite a simple but important set of skills. The first being project planning. So the ability to take that set of deliverables and put them into a scheduled plan that is realistic, credible, is checked, and that can be shared. It requires really strong facilitation skills. So as a project manager, we tend to be generalists and don't know the details, so we require and depend on subject matter experts to fill that plan and define exactly how we're going to achieve the outcomes that we want. So facilitating that group of not usually like-minded people across many areas is a key skill for the project manager to have. It requires really strong task management skills. So the scheduling and tracking of what tasks need to be done by when and by whom is a key skill for the project manager to have and for the planner to have. And finally, data management and reporting. So how do we share the information from the project and prove that we are on track and we have confidence in the project to an audience of investors and customers? And this role does require someone with strong organisational skills and strong detail orientation, and is very different from the consultant role. But this isn't the role that is played for the majority of most projects. And in that we go to our third role. And the third role I define as a leader. And that's a very different proposition from the planner and requires a very different set of skills and behaviours. So it's simply put, the leader is managing a team of people that are delivering the ultimate project outcomes, that are doing the work within the project. And that's a very different set of skills from simply tracking tasks and tracking when people are doing the work they need to do. It actually requires strong leadership skills and management of people skills. It is no simple task to lead a team of people who are usually quite diverse in skills and ways of thinking across an organisation to deliver an uncertain outcome, usually in quite a lot of pressure, a high pressure environment, effectively. It requires you to manage pressures from outside the project to protect the project team who are delivering. It requires managing issues within the project team and ensuring that they don't disrupt delivery of the project. And managing that balance while maintaining confidence of the customer and the oversight group and the project team that you're the right person to do the job is no easy task in itself. And to do that effectively requires what I think are 3 core competencies. The first being performance management. And that, in my opinion, is defined as being able to obtain peak performance from a group of people while managing personal development for those people and career development at the same time within the project. It requires leadership skills, which I think are the ability to motivate and energize a team while also being able to challenge them to be their best and perform at their best. Effectively to act as a figurehead and to build their trust so that they entrust your vision and will follow your vision. And it requires communication skills again, communication skills to build honesty and trust and confidence within your project team to do their best work and to be their best selves. And if you'd like to see more details on some of those skills and behaviours with examples, I provide more clear examples in my book. This is just a quick summary. And as I mentioned earlier, those roles, the consultant, the planner and the leader, are aligned fairly closely with the project stages. The consultant mainly at the initiation stage, the planner obviously at the planning stage, and the leader really at the execution and closure stage. They're not exclusive to those stages specifically. So for example, the skills of a planner are required throughout the project when presenting to the oversight group or the customer. The ability to talk simply to that narrative, to talk about the outcomes, to talk at a higher level when presenting and gain that confidence is required throughout through oversight group or steering group meetings as they're usually known. The organisational skills of a planner are required when revising and updating the plan and tracking tasks throughout the execution of a project. And the leader role, as I mentioned, is performed probably for the longest, the most intense period of the project and is ultimately performed as soon as you start engaging with members of a potential project team. And while the ability to perform all 3 of those roles might be limited by the organisation or the role that you've been hired into, so most will start, in my experience, at the planner role, understanding that consultant role and thinking about the consultant role is a key way to start building that experience and building that profile, particularly where you are presenting back to steering groups. Thinking of yourself as that consultant and what skills and perception you need of yourself is critical to performing the role well and can then be practiced. And throughout my fairly long career, I've met a few, probably a handful of project managers that I think can truly master those 3 roles well. And when I've met them, they are significantly effective and highly impactful. I think I've met a good number that can master 2 of those well, which I think is enough to be an effective project manager, the planner and the leader. I have met some that I think can master just 1, the planner role, and not the leader role, and I think that's highly problematic. Although some of that can be overcome, and I've seen it overcome with being extremely bullish and extremely aggressive with the project team, the sustainability impact of that is fairly significant. It is possible to get effective results from a project team by being aggressive and bullish with them, but I think it's an extremely cheap and lazy way of project management and ultimately produces short-term results at the detriment of long-term sustainability. Moreover, I see project management and being involved in projects as a privilege for both the project manager and the project team involved. It's a great way of progressing your career. It's a great way of learning new skills, of doing something unique and reshaping the way a business operates a lot of the time and being at the forefront of that, what that new world looks like, and being the first into that new world and leaping ahead of others. So if you want to be an effective project manager, I think it's essential to learn the planner role really well, which I think methodologies can help with, and I think a lot of knowledge is out there already on that. I think it's really essential to be a good leader, which can come through experience and also through some leadership management, leadership training. If you want to be highly, highly effective, I think the consultant role is the key to achieving that, which is a little bit harder to obtain. Hopefully my book can help accelerate some of that learning and development. If you'd like to purchase a copy, it's available on Amazon. I'll put the link in the comments below in a pinned comment. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to reach out by email. Again, my email address is in the comments below, or leave a comment in the comments section. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. More videos coming soon. If you'd like to be notified of when they're coming out, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell below, and they'll be notified as they're released. So one every approximately 3 weeks to a month at the moment. So until then, I'll see you on the next video.